Hey guys, welcome to the MC Anime Podcast. We cover anime, geek culture, Japanese aesthetics, and Asian studies. We are a multi-fandom podcast, and you can expect to hear topics in your favorite hobby or fandom activity potentially. You can find MC Anime on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Also, please check out mcanimepodcast.com, our website. Furthermore, stay tuned in for another episode.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of MC Anime. MC here, and today I have another special guest with me, Austin Wells. He is a lightsaber instructor and the founder of Portside Rouges. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
So, tell the audience a little about yourself and where they can find you on social media.
So, you can find Portside Rouges on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. We got a YouTube that's not really active right now, but you can find us there as well.
Okay. And for anyone that doesn't know, what is Portside Rouges and how does it kind of incorporate lightsabers?
So, Portside Rouges is a academy. We actually teach everything from your choreographed staged combat, like reenactments and theoretical type dueling. We also do tournament style, like the sport of lightsaber dueling, and actual self-defense techniques, like to actually protect yourself if you get in a life or death situation. We also teach that as well.
Okay. Is it like a non-profit, for-profit? How does that go about?
It's a profit business.
Okay.
We do classes and private training sessions and things like that.
Okay. What is one thing about Portside Rouges and lightsaber instructing really just gives you a happy moment?
Oh, it's always fun. Narrowing down just one thing is going to be a little difficult, but I'd have to say maybe just showing up to different areas while we're marketing. We usually go to like carnivals and festivals, rave parties and stuff. And it's usually really fun because you know the nerds when you light up a lightsaber and their eyes glow from like half a mile away and come running to see what you are all about. That's always one of my favorite things about being an instructor.
Oh, okay. So you bring up a really good point. The lightsaber being the call to action for people to be attracted to you. How does that work?
Definitely. Well, one of the things is like, I don't know why, but children are just naturally drawn to big glowy objects. And it's also real cool about like, we got all these movies that continually come out. Like, we got Kenobi coming out in a couple more weeks. So everyone just understands what a lightsaber is from such a distance, especially in the dark. And it's kind of just like that. It's one of like three big symbols out there of just absolute, you're good to be a nerd here and we ain't going to judge you for it, kind of a thing. We just take it a little step further and actually learn how to use them like they would in the movies.
So you say one of big three symbols? What's the other two?
I've always thought like the Dragon Balls from the Dragon Ball Z and the Naruto headbands are like the biggest nerd items out there that is easily recognizable.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're pretty right about that. The headbands, I would just say, the Dragon Ball could be for the older generation and somewhat more now. I don't, it could be hard to say depending what's going in and out of favor.
Yeah.
So, a really interesting thing with the lightsaber that kind of is like a proven fact. The reason why the bright flashing lights just attracts people's mindset is because there's an effect in the flashing that just makes them drawn to like a firefly to light kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, just like a moth or something like that. Yeah,
it's
come pretty quick.
It's very eye catching. It's very quick, but it's very bright. People tend to associate with more with bright colors, and that's why for example, a siren is blue and red, but blue and red flashing lights. It's to let you know that you have to stop, and it's a cue that you have to take in account.
I've never thought of that. We do have the blue and the red dueling against each other all the time. That could be one good reason why people are always like, "Whoa, what's going on over there?"
Yeah. I think the concept is really cool that you have the academy. I think that you having it provides a space for the inner nerd to come out, but actually be part of a group to have like-minded interests.
Yeah, definitely. And it's great because we don't just have the younger kids like what you'd expect is like a 12 to so old. We got a lot of people that are within their mid-20s that jump into this stuff as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a following community, but also, I mean, the customer's second, but the people first. You kind of bring in that connection, and that kind of what makes it grow on you a little bit.
Oh, definitely.
So let's say this. I want to go in there, apply to be a student at the academy. What is the steps I need to do that?
So right now, we've actually got really simple. We've got a Discord group is one easy way to really get into it. Other than that, we just post up our different classes of when we do them and everything like that. So it's not like it's not like you sign up for a membership right now. It's more of you can show up whenever you feel like learning something new, or you can contact us and get one-on-one personal training done. Once you're part of our groups inside of the Discord, we actually give you your own title, and then we help score people on their level of ability from apprentice to master.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it typically people in the local area that you're attracted to, but you have people across country?
Right now we've got most of the people that show up for the class are local or within the close by cities.
Okay.
But we have been actually, because we're in Michigan, we're just across the lake from Sarnia. We have been getting some interest from the Canadian side here and there, and I'm hoping maybe within a couple years we'll actually have a little area over on the Canadian side as well.
Okay. So having the lake or Michigan, isn't that kind of interesting too?
Yeah. I mean, it's really good for a couple of our pictures and things like that for social media. We got the Blue Water Bridge, which is like a huge landmark that we usually take pictures with, or we'll have it in the background of our dueling videos and stuff like that. We'll also get like different types of freighters and yachts and stuff in the background, just out for a midnight stroll. Every once in a while, we'll get a freighter to honk at us. We'll wave to them with the lightsabers. So, I mean, it does draw in a little bit of a different, I want to say, feel or a vibe.
Yeah.
Completely different. Our group is much more laid back. It's not like going to a karate center and, stressing about how you're not growing in the ranks. It's more of like just a bunch of friends going out to like a cosplay or something like that, Like each and every one of them's got their strengths and weaknesses, but everybody gets along in the end.
True. And typically, when you're doing these tournaments and dueling and reenactments, what is the public reception of you doing all this? And do they contribute or do they watch?
Yeah, we get a lot of people that's interested in it. We get a lot more people that see it, and I don't know if they're just intimidated by our users that's really good and they're really up there, and they're not really sure about jumping in and learning it, or we'll get the ones that are like extremely nervous, but they'll watch us from a distance, kind of a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, we always... Oh, sorry.
Everyone has an origin story. What is your origin story?
So, Portside Rouges actually started as 3 people. We were a lightsaber group before we became an academy. And there was, the 3 of us was, I was the exotics teacher, which is like double blades, whips, and staff type of work. We had a single blades expert, which he still comes around here and there, and then we had a dual wield, which is one in each hand. But when we were starting to make the transition to become an academy, a couple of our group members broke off. They didn't like the idea of it, or they didn't agree with us on how we wanted to start things off and, try and make some money and make this a thing over here. So now it's really just me that teaches all this stuff. But we're hoping that once everything gets the ball running again for this season, it'll help us get back up there again.
Oh, okay. Have you guys had like a reunion or anything like that?
No. Most of the members don't talk to the dual wield expert anymore. He's really taken a different path, and a lot of people just don't agree with him. Nothing like, I don't hold grudges or anything like that, but I can't keep him around what he's up to and everything like that anymore.
Oh.
The single blade guy, I don't know. He's been depressed or something, and I hear from him here and there. I check in on him and all that, but he's just not into it as he used to be anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, at least you keep up with him, and all that's good jazz. You don't keep him at a distance. You kind of check in because you have that correspondence with him at the time, and overall rapport, as I say.
Yeah, I mean, when you get into the lightsaber dueling and everything, you've got like, me and the single blade guy were dueling like for 3 years together, and we learned off of each other for this entire time, and we grew real close and everything. So it's great because it's not just me that's like that. We get a couple of the students in the class that will hook up on the Discord servers, and they're also creating these types of bonds where it's like even though they don't show up to practice, they're still out there and they're still connected in a way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It does really bring a point that Discord is like really good community building and just relationship in general.
Yeah, definitely. And it's great because we do get that occasional person who's hateful. You'll get the virgin comments and the there's always going to be that one person that's going to try and put you down. But when there's a group of like 4 or 5 of us just having the time of our lives swinging and smacking each other around with lightsabers, that really kind of shuts them out.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So that's the origin story. So you stay in contact with one person, the other one not so much. So the trifecta has kind of broke away, become now the pair. What is like the central message you want the Academy to stand for?
We actually believe in a piece of our nonprofit that comes off of the Portside Rouges. Portside Rouges actually funds a smaller teen program. It's a troubled teen program called Project Chivalry. And our belief is people who are struggling are not bad people. Yeah. And we like to stand by it and say, teenagers and these youth act out because no one's paying attention to them. And as these lightsaber duelists and, people who look up to us, we need to be mentors in our community. And actually, we do try and strive to be a lot like the Jedi inside of the movies. And we're outreaching and we're compassionate for people.
Okay, I can see that. You reaching out, you being a empowerment advocate, and also just building up who they are, where they belong. I think that's a great message to send to the people that have similar issues.
Great, because we've had so many kids come in and out from these troubled teen centers and stuff like that. We'll have them in our program for a couple weeks, and the members will just talk to them and figure out hey man, what's going on? Why are you acting up in school? And these kids will just open up and be like, yeah, I ain't got a dad at home. I don't have I'm not getting the attention I need. I'm struggling in school because I'm getting bullied and things like that. And it's amazing to see these children open up and just pour out their hearts and feelings. And these guys will just latch onto these children real quick, and they're just like, oh yeah, I had those issues way back then, and this is how I handled it back then. And it's been a great part of our community, not just going out and having fun and being a spectacle, but also all these students go out and then they're these big role models for the community as a whole, and they're just helping anyone and everyone that's out there.
True. I think not the fact that you have the nonprofit, but also Portside Road at the forefront of it. What is a marketing for that nonprofit that you have been a great building block for?
We usually tell about our very first student that went through the program when we first started getting it up. We actually have a police officer that's in the area, and he knew about our programs. He was like he came into our program for a couple times just as a lightsaber duelist when he was off duty, and I guess this kid was running away from home every Saturday, and the police had to go and get him from the train tracks because he was spray painting the cars and causing trouble and mischief. Well, I guess his mother just was out of options, didn't know what was going on, didn't know what to do. She had exhausted all the different things that the city offered for this troubled teen. And well, the police officer said, "Oh, well, there's this lightsaber group, and they work with children on these things." So he gave her my contact information. She contacted me like within the next day, and when she called and asked about everything, I ran her through. We work with these kids. We teach them a couple things, like a couple tricks and some basics with the lightsaber. We talk to them, we mentor with them, and then we figure out what the problem is and try and find a way to solve it. Well, we did this a week later. The mentor that was partnered with the kid comes back and he says, "Well, the kid's not a bad kid. He ain't got a dad at home. His mother doesn't pay attention to him because he's got all these other siblings, and everyone in school's making fun of him because he wants to grow up and be a chef." And I guess some reason kids think that only women should be cooking or something like that. I don't know why. That was the stereotype. Well, we got back to this kid and we said, every great chef is a man out there, so don't listen to those children. Instead, we're going to find this path. We actually found a soup kitchen within our area, and instead of the kid running out every night to cause mayhem, he actually gets picked up and helps a chef learn how to cook and prep meals and everything like that. So he's actually already on his way to become a chef like he dreams of. That's one of the things that we always tell people about what Project Chivalry is all about and how it works. And I've always been the type of guy that says, if it's stupid but it works, it's not stupid.
Yeah. If it ain't broke, it ain't. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
Well, also, chef is a great industry because it's the hospitality. You work with the public. You give them the food that they want. You give them the experience that they don't necessarily get at home because they're eating out or they're eating in a place that's maybe not something they get every day.
Yeah, and I'm always focusing on passions and stuff, and it's really easy to, cook something and then look at it and say, I made this, and no one else could do this kind of a thing. And that's what I always see is, I'm passionate about, I can train students to be the best lightsaber duelist they can be. Well, it's no different from this kid wanting to become a chef. He can make masterpieces. Who knows? Maybe the kid will one day be the next Gordon Ramsay, He can make food that just wows everybody because it's his passion.
Mm-hmm. True. You also have to take it hot, what do people want to do? What are the goals to achieve it? What is setting them back from achieving it? What is the self-esteem associated with achieving it? But also, is that the true path? Or is it something else?
Yeah, definitely.
And, speaking of path and taking where you belong, did you see yourself doing Portside Road as a full-time, quote-unquote, teaching, instructing academy?
Yes, my goal is to one day actually have my own building and do this full time, but I also want to do it as like, so the way I'm looking at it is I want Portside Rogues to fund the different nonprofits that I work with and everything like that. I work with the food drives, and I love to work with the deep pollution industries and the troubled youth, like I've said. They're just other passions out there that I really love. I'd love to be able to have Portside Rogues as like a full-time thing, and it helps me fund working with youth programs and just spreading across the United States. The biggest thing that we've looked at is um, currently lightsaber dueling isn't a all-around sport. Currently, it's just like, oh, only able-bodied people can do this and that stuff, but it's not true. We have actually taught kids with, cerebral palsy, which disables their ability to walk, and I have taught a couple kids that only have one arm or have other issues like prosthetics. And I would like to make Portside Rogues maybe one day the forefront of a special Olympic type deal with the lightsaber sports, because currently nobody else is stepping up to the plate, and I've got a passion for kids that like to defy the odds.
Oh, okay. So if Portside Road is part-time, what is the other thing that you do to help on the side that's not Portside Road?
What I use to pay bills right now? I'm a trainee diesel mechanic right now.
Oh, that's two different fields.
Yeah, I got into it because my dad's a diesel mechanic, but
Oh, okay.
it's not really where I want to be. It's not, I'm not very good at it for one thing, and the next is like, this isn't where I want to be. I can't do anything. I'm not helping anyone where I'm at, and that does bother me a little bit in that aspect of I can't reach out and do what I want to do. Portside Rogues would be more preferable because not only does the program make the money, but I'm also able to help with everything that I want to do.
True. I mean, you can always retire from diesel and then have that it's coming in, and you can just focus on Portside Road.
Yeah, but that'll be another 40 years. I'm still young.
Yeah, at that point. Question is, what's going to happen first? Diesel just going to be part of who you are, or Portside Road?
I've always thought, Portside Rogues. I've been a lightsaber guy for a long time. I've only been a trainee diesel mechanic for about 3 years, but I'm coming up on 17 years of this lightsaber stuff. I jumped into it when I was 10 years old, and the ball just kept rolling, and it never stopped. And it took me about 5 years to be any good at it, but, I stride through, and I worked hard at it, practiced all the time, and I got to where I am now, to where I'm I think I'm one of 5, last I checked, of the best duelists within Michigan, but I'm one of the best instructors as well. So, I mean, I'm not a duelist no more, but I'm one heck of a teacher.
True. It's something to be, amazed at. And where did lightsaber passion come from?
So one of my dream jobs was actually to be a Navy SEAL. So I was ridiculous with my learning of martial arts, and I picked up a sword because the Marines was one of the big areas I was looking to get a part of. So I learned various sword arts, and fencing was one of my sports within high school. I took various karate classes throughout middle school. So it just kind of blended when I was rejected for the military. I got ADHD, so they wouldn't even accept me into their programs or anything like that. But I already had such a passion and a love for these martial arts. I just continued going, and it became one heck of a addiction pretty quick.
Well, usually ADHD is not a factor that limits you for the military. Unless it's like medicated. I don't because my brother's ADHD, and he joined the Coast Guard, the National Guard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's just the state of Michigan or something, but they don't allow it over here. And I kind of took it as a sign of, like, this isn't what I'm meant to do. And I guess it took me, maybe 5 years to figure out that maybe lightsabering and teaching these martial arts is really what I'm meant to be.
Okay, I understand that the way of the sword, martial arts, fencing, all contributed to lightsaber. But what made you specifically pick up the lightsaber that just made you even more fascinated?
Yeah, so when I was fencing throughout high school, and everything like that, a buddy of mine was like, hey man, a couple of us are leaving the fencing and joining up this group of lightsaber duelists. And he was saying, like, oh, it's gonna be this really big thing in a couple years, and everyone's gonna graduate towards this instead, and it's all complex, it's complicated, and it's challenging. And I've always been one of the guys that's like, I don't want easy. I want something that's going to pick at me, and I've got to figure it out, kind of a thing. So I jumped into it, and they were right. My fencing didn't do anything to help me with lightsaber stuff. I didn't hold my own very well, and I mean, these guys ran circles around me. They knew what they were doing, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And it did take me a good, like I said, it took me a good 5 years to be any good at it before I started actually winning matches.
So, what was the inspiration during the 5-year period to continue? What was the driving force?
Well, once I started learning that the single blade wasn't my dominant, it was the double blade. Double blades are so unusual and different. A good amount of people say that the double blade, like Darth Maul's double blade, is very, very obsolete. It's not useful, it's not practical, but I was one of the first few people that actually took it and created a whole nother technique with it. And a lot of people were like, wow, you are the best double blade duelists within these brackets in these in the sports area. So after the 5-year mark, when I finally got my double blade and started using it, people, kind of pushed me forward on saying that I was really good at it, and it's unusual on how I utilize that blade, because a lot of people believe, oh, you just hit their hands and that's it for them, but I don't actually allow that at all. I hold it in a whole different way, and I hold it in a different way. I swing it a different way. I really control the battlefield with one of those things. So when I found out I've got a skill that nobody else has, I really took off with that and continued moving.
All right. So you picked up a knack that you had a niche in this particular double wielding access. What is your current rank at the moment?
Within like a standing,
Yeah.
I would within most other places I'd be considered a master. And within my own ranking, I'm actually we do an elites, which is just one step above the master.
Oh, okay. So is there any other elite in the program with you?
We had one other guy, the single blade user that dueled with me for years and years, was also an elite, but since he's hasn't been in the program for a while, he's kind of he's kind of a wanderer for our group. But
The
a lot of
wandering
us
swordsman, right? The wandering swordsman. He goes from town to town. You don't know where he'll be until he shows up.
Yeah, and he is very proficient with that single blade, which is incredible.
So is there anyone rising up in the ranks that you think might have potential for master?
We do have one. He hasn't chosen a nickname yet, but he's been very quick and perceptive to figuring out the very first form. How we do our ranking system is by how many forms you are proficient with of the 7. Okay. And he's got a pretty good grip on the 3rd form, so he's almost to the knight stature, which is right in between the apprentice and the master.
Okay.
Yeah. We do have one. I can see him becoming a master, and his name is Ares. Okay. And he's also one of our Troubled Teen program kids, too. And he's been working up there pretty well, but his time and everything's kind of more limited, so he's only growing slow because he can't make it to every practice.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when did the academy become reality? Like, when did you realize that this can be taught to other people?
So I was actually just jumping around and everything like that. I stopped becoming a duelist because there's pride and ego within the sport. So I was taking a break, and I came across an advertisement back in 2019, and they were talking about lightsaber combat had become an official competitive sport, and this is something that's big, and they teach it all over the place, and this type of stuff. And I said to myself, I'm one of the best duelists that was out there when I was in the game, and why don't I try my hand at teaching? And one of the first students I taught actually ended up going to one of these other groups and just ran circles around them. And it was amazing to say, like, oh, I just taught another master rank guy who just jumped into the dueling world of lightsabers. No one knew who he was or anything like that. He jumps in, and then out of nowhere, everyone knows who he is because he's this good. And it turns out, like, oh, well, I might not be the best duelist anymore, but I am one of the best teachers out there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is there ever a part of you wondering to go back into the dueling atmosphere, or teaching is where you want to be?
You know, I have thought about getting back into dueling and everything. My body's a little out of shape, so I'd have to work back into getting up there again. But you know, I still do consider it some days. I know it was, I don't know if I want to use the word aggravating or a little bit tedious or something like that. Yeah. There's just so many dueling groups out there. They're just full of pride and ego, and anyone who's really looking to get into lightsaber dueling as a whole, just, you know, understand that you're going to run into these guys who think they're the best, and they're going to shoot you down, kind of a thing, if you hold back on them, kind of a thing. And that's kind of what made me leave the dueling community as a whole. Was just like, there's these guys up there, these really, really good duelists that have no problem just not teaching anyone anything and not allowing them to have their full potential released. And it is kind of upsetting to me, because I'm one of those teachers that's like, I will teach my students everything I possibly can. If these guys can stomp me on the battleground and everything, I feel I did my job and I did my part to get these guys as far as they can go. And a lot of these duelists out here are just like, they know they're on top, and they're not going to help anyone get up there either to have a decent fight. And it does bug me.
True. I mean, it might bug you, but, like, could it also be that you beat them in a particular duel, and maybe that's satisfaction enough?
Yeah, you know, I've been able to say, like, you know, I step back and I've just changed my whole aspect, jumping back into what Star Wars is really meant to be. And it's really changed not only my outlook on life, but also just my whole personality and attitude towards it as well. For a good example was, like, I had horrible anger issues when I was dueling and stuff, like 2-3 years back. And, you know, then I stepped back and said, you know, I need to reevaluate. And I jumped in to the animated series of the Clone Wars and everything. And I actually listened for once and noticed, like, you know, Jedi don't hold grudges. They don't create those connections. They don't poison their own energy. And I kind of just looked at myself and said, you know what? It's not everyone around me that's causing me the issues. I'm in these positions because I allow these things to hurt me, and I allow these things to poison my energy, and I need to, take a lesson from the Jedi inside these movies, and it really helped me out. I'm much calmer, and I'm a much happier person because of it.
Oh, okay. So you found So instead of the Star Wars leading to lightsabers, is lightsabers kind of leading to Star Wars?
Yeah, the funny thing is I actually dueled, and I was a lightsaber duelist for like 2 years before I actually watched my first Star Wars episode, because I really wanted to delve into it a little more. So it is very funny to actually tell people, like, I was a lightsaber duelist for 2 years before I actually watched a movie.
Okay. And then, what was the perspective of Star Wars that kind of contributed to lightsabers and the Academy?
Well, I'd have to say a lot of the animated stuff when I was reevaluating really helped out, and I just started paying attention to a lot of the movies and a lot of the video games, the books and everything like that. And there is 7 forms of lightsaber combat, and it's cool to know that each one's got a different personality and a different feel for it. And they're all completely teachable. But I've also learned that there are other academies out there that do not teach any of the 7 forms. So I got it in my head that I'm going to be one of the first few that teaches the 7 forms and really break the ice and change everything.
Oh, okay. So, how many members strong of the Academy is it right now?
Let's see. Let's see. Last season we were with about 6 guys. Got 4 apprentices and 2 knights.
Oh, so is it still? It's okay. So it's not. So it's still relatively small.
Yeah. We're still decently small.
Okay.
Yeah. The split when we changed from group to academy, we lost about half of our number.
Oh, dang. That must have sucked.
It was kind of a bummer, but I kind of saw it as like, if these guys ain't gonna hold on to these ideals and stuff, then it's for the best.
True. Do you still keep in contact with them? That split?
There is a couple of them. There's one guy, he ended up going to the military. He actually became a Marine. Every once in a while I do check in on him because, he never did anything wrong. He never caused any problems or anything like that, but he didn't want to stay and have his friends be how they are,
Yeah.
There are a couple of them I still try and keep in contact with that split off from us and everything. A couple of the ones that really caused some havoc, tried to make their own group, and that group failed. So, yeah.
So they tried to make their own group, but couldn't succeed because of the previous group wasn't enough influence on them?
I believe one of the big issues was a lot of the people that left the group weren't nearly trained for many weeks or even months. So I believe that, I'm thinking like the top 2 guys, because there was 2 masters that left with the rest of them. I believe those 2 must have fought over power and may have just ruined all of it for them. Like, they didn't figure out who was really in lead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't exactly know what happened at all because I'm not in contact with those two, the two bigger ones, because they caused a lot of problems. But the rest of them, the ones that I stayed in contact with, they were like, man, we don't know what happened either. Like, we never even had a meet, and that was like the weirdest thing.
Yeah, that is a little strange.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. Now, with that experience, was it just, asking for the money and supporting that way, or is it more than that?
I feel like it was kind of a combination of a couple things because when we became the academy, I reset everyone's um, positions and started reevaluating how we did things. Like our ranks for master are actually a little more difficult to achieve nowadays than it was back when we were just a normal group. Like mastery was just like, oh yeah, you can utilize a single blade, a double blade, and dual wield, and that made you a master. Now it's you have to be proficient in at least 3 of the 7 forms to actually reach this level.
Mm-hmm.
And the other portion is a couple of them seem to have fallen in with other toxic dueling communities that really have it out for me due to how I left the dueling communities and stuff like that. They had it out for me, and these guys got in contact with them, and I feel it was probably a combination of the two. I may have put too much stress on them from changing the roles and titles, and the mixture of that with them getting in contact with these other groups may have caused a lot of problems.
Oh, okay. So looking back at it now, was we anything you do different, or you just keep the same?
You know, I'm not sure. I guess half of me sees it as like, if they were going to break off like this because a lot of choice words were said and some heated arguments and things like that were exchanged, I feel like, it's not that I see these guys as bad people or anything like that, but they're definitely people that's gone down a path that I really wouldn't be able to condone. If one of my students nowadays did that, I would be upset, very upset about it. Uh, but really, I don't think I'd do it any differently. I feel like maybe getting rid of these guys who were just angry when the change started was probably what we needed to start moving in a better direction.
Oh, okay. Now, do you feel like the academy is like a new group, or do you feel like the academy is beyond a group?
Ooh, that's a good question. It may be just beyond some group because the influences of how we interact with people out there do actually affect our community. So I'm not sure if I'd call it just an academy anymore. Maybe we've become something a little more. I wouldn't know what to call it though.
Okay, so it's not an academy, it's not a group. What we're getting is what? A regiment?
I would like to say community is probably the closest thing.
Oh, I was thinking like
Cult sounds bad, but,
regiment kind of thing.
Yeah. I'd want to say maybe we're like a community now because, sure, we got duelists. We've got these guys from the gymnastics that I do also jump in with this stuff and really do an awesome job. We've connected with a really awesome nonprofit called Force Against Hunger that a local karate place goes for, and they come to us and have us help them out, and I spread that across our guys, and one of our guys actually volunteered to be an actor for this thing, and it was amazing to see, like, oh yeah, I say, hey guys, there's this awesome thing that's changing lives, and each and every one of these guys is like, oh, well, how can I help, and what can we do to make this better for us, and what can I do to, extend this out to the community to make it an even better thing. So, sure, we're teaching things in the academy, but I'd have to say my students just create a whole nother atmosphere about it. They're not just like, oh yeah, I go to this place to learn how to be a lightsaber duelist. It's become more of a more of like this is my teacher and this is how I live my life because he's inspired me to be bigger than myself.
True. Before we take this for a wrap up, is there like any closing statements that you want the audience to know about Rogue Academy, lightsabers, Star Wars, anything?
One of the things that we like to say to people at the academy is believe, feel, act. If you believe you're the best at something, you're going to act that way. And when you act that way, you'll feel that way.
Oh, okay.
Believe, feel, act.
Believe, feel, act. That's a interesting analogy.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. One of our mentors brought up to us, and it was a cool thing because it's off of a excerpt of Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison actually lived his entire life believing he was too intelligent, and that was why he was kicked out of school during his childhood, when in opposite, he was considered incredibly stupid of a child, and that's why he was kicked out of school. But because of his mother's ability of telling him, oh, he was too smart and the schools couldn't teach him anymore, he lived his entire life believing he could do anything and everything because he was intelligent. And that's kind of what believe, feel, act comes from, is it's don't let some idiot tell you that you're not good enough and start telling yourself you're good enough.
Okay. Because then, the thought process of believing it, once, you have to have the belief to establish the action. And the action takes foothold and strength from the act of believing to actually do what the action is. And over time, that action becomes routine and you feel it in itself. That's what I think.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
It kind of reminds me of practice until you make it.
Yeah.
Even if you have to fake it, make it for yourself.
Yeah, that's actually a more simple version of it. Yeah, fake it till you make it. It's pretty similar to that. And we always try and tell people, like, just because you're not good at it now doesn't mean you're never going to be good at it.
Yeah.
You know how many paintings Picasso painted before he actually became recognized?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody can just walk into something and be the best. You have to work at it, and you need to believe that you can achieve something.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that we like to teach at Portside Rouges is there's nothing that can ever stop you.
Yeah.
It's all in your head.
True. And I also feel that anyone can be a dual wielder and then actually have the unique fighting style like you.
Exactly. And it is. I mean, like, for the longest time, I was thinking, like, oh, I'm not going to be good at this type of thing. But then one day I picked them up and started practicing with them. And, well, now I'm one of the most sought after lightsaber duelists. It's all in your head. It's insane to know that, like, the only people that hold us back is ourselves.
True. Society is very judgmental. Society gives us established roles, but we don't belong to any established role. We make what we want to make. We decide the path that is for us. And as a result, you kind of break the mold of what society puts on you if you think like that. Because if you don't, you come trapped in this society of what they think and what they believe, and then you believe it to the point it's become action and you feel it. And you don't want to feel the society negativity. You want to be your own individual.
Yeah, and it is kind of sad to say, like, you know, we're pushed down all the time, and everyone's always out to down you or judge you on something. And the believe feel act works with that so well. And it's like, you know, if someone tells you you're not good enough, you're gonna feel that way, you're gonna act that way, and you're gonna believe it. But if you tell yourself you are good at this and you continue to work at it, you feel that way, you believe it, then you start to use action, and then you'll start to feel like it and become that.
True.
And I feel we need to really start working on being the types of generation that can say, I'm not going to hold myself back anymore, and I'm not going to listen to these other people.
Yeah, that is true. You know, you have to believe it to be acted to feel it. And one way to believe, act it, and feel it is, you know, maybe doing something that is beyond you.
Yeah.
As we take this to a close, where can they find you, Austin? And then we can go from there.
Yeah, so you can find Portside Rouges on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok. Those are like our most active accounts right now.
All right. And everyone, you can check out our website, MC Anime Podcast. Anywhere you can find podcasts, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, MC Anime, Stitcher. We have a Patreon community at the moment, trying to grow it up. MC Anime tiers, check it out. Original post. So you support the creator of MC Anime Podcast. Make sure you check it out. And believe it, just like the philosophy Naruto has. Because guess what? Austin really encapsulates great imagination, fight for spirit, and overall an underdog story that you just can't ignore. Thank you so much, Austin.
Of course, I really had fun with this. I hope it was as enlightening as it was for me.
Oh yeah. Let the Force be with us after May 4th.
Yeah. We'll be able to celebrate again May 27th.
Yeah, there's another day coming up. Always something else.
That's Kenobi, when Kenobi releases.
Oh, oh, so you have like a... Okay, so yeah. Hey,
Yeah, I'm
watch a Kenobi in theaters. You have Austin's way of passage say you should watch it, so that's his message, right? I approve this message.
Yeah, it's supposed to be on Disney Plus, the 27th, so I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Alright, well, this was a great interview. I really enjoyed it. And for anyone that wants to look at Portside Rogue and, follow Austin and his crew, so be it. Let Portside Rogues be the tunnel to enlightenment to find your own path.
Yep, be the light in the darkness.
Oh boy. And be the big giant Pixar, the giant light going down. Alright, guys. See you later.
This concludes another episode of MC Anime Podcast. MC Anime Podcast is available on podcast directories like Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. We also have our website at mcanimepodcast.com. If you want to directly support us, then follow Patreon blog MC Anime. Finally, if you want services for hire, then we're available on Fiverr for audio and video production, graphic design, idea consulting, and blog and article writing.